For years, Israel was linked to the Olympics primarily by the tragedy of the 1972 Munich Games, where 11 members of its delegation were killed by terrorists. But Israel has, in the past decade, come to have a new Olympic presence. At the '92 Barcelona Games, Yael Arad won a judo silver, giving her nation its first ever Olympic medal. 2 years later, Israel made its debut at the Winter Games in Lillehammer, where Misha Shmerkin placed 16th in men's figure skating. In Salt Lake, the Israeli team may include an American-born and raised athlete who, by virtue of being Jewish, gained Israeli citizenship and thus found opportunity to achieve a goal that once seemed impossible.
Brian has always marched to the beat of his own drummer. He never followed any of his peers, his friends, and I must give him credit for doing that.
It came out of the clear blue, basically. I mean, you know, Brian has always been interested in doing things a little bit different, you know, pursuing his own path, so to speak. When he said he wanted to try luge, although the concept was a little bit strange to us, you know, we knew that it was something that was consistent with the way Brian is.
I went to Israel, met with them, the Winter Olympic Committee, just got a feel for what was going on. And they saw that I came, I was serious. They said, okay, we'll form a luge federation.
In February 1994, Brian Goldberg, no doubt like many fellow 17-year-olds in Rockland County, New York, watched the Lillehammer Olympics and found new ambition. For Goldberg, the lure was luge. The impetus? An ad for a training program he'd attend that summer.
And they set up this course down the concrete hill and teach you how to steer the sled and basics, the round cones and stuff. And that was it. And a couple weeks later, I got a letter saying, you know, you're not cut out for our program exactly. You're too old for it. You know, I was 17 years old. And they were looking for 12-year-olds, basically, to take into the program. I was a little disappointed then, but, you know, college was coming up, and I wasn't about to give that up right away. After college, I was substitute teaching for a year, and it was a flexible schedule, and I wanted to try luge again. And I wanted to go visit Japan, too, and I knew they had a luge track there from the Nagano Games. And I called the U.S. Luge Association, and I asked them for a reference. They gave me the Japanese coach's phone number. I faxed him a letter, and he said, sure, come on over during the winter, and you can train with us for a few weeks, and we'll help you out.
Still intrigued, even 4 years after his brief exposure to a street version of luge, Brian headed for Nagano to put his aspirations on ice. There, he encountered Gunther Lemmer, a coach with the International Luge Federation, who oversaw a team of athletes from countries where luge was hardly a national pastime.
There was 2 Brazilians, a guy racing for Thailand, who's from Georgia, but his mother's Thai, some Koreans, a guy from India, and he invited me to join that group as an American slider, but with the anticipation that I'd be sliding for a developing country, a country that didn't have a luge program yet. I mean, you could slide for Puerto Rico or the Virgin Islands, but I have no connection to those places at all. Most realistically, yeah, it was Israel. I wasn't even sure I was ready to go through with this at the time, you know. I mean, I'm a Jewish American, but I'm not Israeli. You know, I wasn't Israeli at the time, you know. I let the idea roll around in my head, and during those 2 weeks in Nagano, I just concentrated on learning how to slide. And when I went home, then I started making some phone calls and asking some questions to the Israeli Olympic Committee, and they sent me an official letter saying, we don't have a luge facility, and we never will be able to have a luge facility. So how could we possibly participate in this sport?
The answer, in fact, was simple. Israel would need to create a luge federation and make Brian a member. Convinced of his dedication and potential, officials ultimately obliged. Brian, in turn, became an Israeli citizen. And on a trip this summer to his new nation, he introduced its new sport. And while there, began learning about centuries of culture and tradition.
So I brought a sled with me with wheels on it. And we put it on the hockey rink. And we pushed it across the hockey rink with some kids lying down on it and showed them how to steer it. And everyone was just really confused. Everyone was just giving me the slyest looks, like, what are you doing?
There's the determination that's shared both by Brian and by the State of Israel to forge ahead and to not let things stand in their way.
There's something here for me to learn a lot more about. I don't know quite what it's going to be like. I don't know what it's going to feel like to spend more time here, but I want to, and I will. And that's what made me feel very comfortable with going ahead with this.
In his pursuit of a place in the Olympics, Goldberg has spent some $17,000 of his own money. Among the expenditures, an $18 fee per training run on the Olympic luge course in Park City, Utah. Whether he'll compete at the 2002 Games remains up in the air. He has increasingly short time to meet qualifying standards. Either way, he intends to finish up his graduate studies at Columbia University, where he's working toward a master's degree in Asian Studies.